to this episode of No Free Lunch, Economics for a Fallen World. I'm Professor Jeff Guernsey, joined as always by Dr. Jeff Heyman. In the last several episodes, we've talked about supply, demand, equilibrium, so forth. Now I think you want to talk about whether there's a surplus or a shortage. What's up with those?
Yeah, so we've got a diagram up here to show us about what a surplus would look like. And a surplus just means that there's an excess of the goods that are supplied over what the market would demand. And you see this, what it would represent, of course, is that the price is greater than the equilibrium price. And what that, if you follow our diagram, you see that the quantity supplied at that price, which is too high, tends to be much greater than the quantity demand. The quantity supplied much, much greater than quantity demand. This distance, the quantity, is what we would call the surplus of this good or service in general. That's how we would define it. And so then the question is, well, how does this happen, and how are we going to take it away, right? So markets tend, and this is what I'm trying to show with these arrows, the markets, and we talked a little bit about this last time in the equilibrium discussion, but just to reiterate, to remind you, markets tend to get rid of those surpluses because while we've got this drawn fairly dramatically for illustrative purposes in this video, you can imagine markets are always moving around just a little bit, almost like maybe it's right here and right here. Moving around because markets don't really know what the best price is. You see the gasoline price change maybe not every day, but often on many goods and services. Some stay fixed longer. But in any case, what has to happen is the price has to come down, because when you have a surplus, you can imagine that the store shelves are full, and as we talked last time, we're going to put that good on sale because it's clogging the space, it's not moving, and that's the signal that consumers do not value this product as much as they would value other products. So you have to put that item on sale, and once that price gets lowered, you'll find marginal demanders that will now find, hey, at that price, I'm willing to buy. And eventually it's going to drive it down till we get to that equilibrium price. And you'll be left with this equilibrium quantity. Markets will automatically tend to do that unless they are restricted by some government dictate. And we'll get to that in a subsequent No Free Lunch discussion.
So I think you've kind of talked about it, but is it true that the primary cause of a surplus in this case is that the price is above the market clearing price or equilibrium price?
Yeah, it's a mispricing. Okay. And we're here in the business school at Cedarville, and we're training up great marketing majors that are going to try to figure out what true market demand is for a new product and innovation. They'll do as best they can to try to figure out what that price point is. But we see it all the time with some product that's introduced that demand has greatly exceeded what they wanted. And sometimes it's overhyped. These kind of things happen more often with new products that, you're probably not going to have a great surplus of peanut butter. It's a product that's well known and people understand the price is going to be, movement's going to be a lot smaller, I suspect. That being said, the market is always going to send that signal. And let's take this back for our viewers to understand what this means. When the price is greater than what the demand that leads to the supply being greater than what the quantity is demanded, that's sending a signal from the consumers. We value what we could have consumed instead of this product higher. Stop making that product if you have to sell it at that price, because we would prefer to buy something else. So if instead you stop producing that, you free up resources for more highly valued items for consumers to consume.
So opportunity costs.
Yeah, opportunity costs.
Yeah. And the surpluses, or the opposite, a shortage, get eliminated primarily through the price mechanism?
They will always get eliminated through the price mechanism if there's no government prohibition to do so. And so since you mentioned a shortage, we probably ought to look at that one and quickly show on the diagram how that looks. For our viewers, it looks the same, except for now the price is below what we would have for this equilibrium price. And you see it's reversed now. In this particular case, the quantity demanded at this low price, look how high the quantity demand is, but the suppliers only want to supply this much. That's a huge difference between the quantity, demand, quantity, supply. Now the store shelves are empty. Everybody wants this item. And that's going to tend to result in people holding back that product, bidding back the product. The retailers don't want to sell it because it's drawing customers in. They'll be loath to sell it, and they're certainly not going to give any discounts if they can. That tends to raise the price, and demanders will bid up on this. And even if, as I mentioned in a previous video, even if they don't do it themselves, there will be a secondary market that emerge. We see that, people scalping tickets, things like that. But the price will react. And what that does, back to that opportunity cost you just mentioned, that sends a signal to the entrepreneurs. We really, really value what you're producing here. And these firms are earning larger profits. That's another price signal, which means more capital ought to be allocated to producing whatever this good or service is. We want more of it, consumers say. Give me more. And the price will drive to that result. It sends a signal to everybody to produce more. And it tells the lower valued consumers that value this less, maybe you shouldn't consume because there's people that want it more than you do. That's kind of what the market send the prices as signal.
And in both of these examples, the surplus and the shortage, all we're doing is moving along the curves, aren't we? I mean, we'll talk later, I imagine, at a different time about what happens if demand or supply actually shifts.
That's a great idea. We should do that in the next video.
Let's do that in the next video. Thank you for joining us for this video on No Free Lunch, Economics for a Fallen World.